Hey everyone, how y'all doing today? I'm going to be talking to you about the flexible heart and what it means to be limitless. So of course, when we're talking about the heart, we have to talk about the ego just for contrast reasons, because when we are living from the ego, we are living in a very limited way. And the reason being is because the ego is restrictive. It likes to constrict us. It likes us to live small. It doesn't want us to expand into our greatness. The ego is exclusive. It wants to just be part of one thing and not another. So meaning like there's that superiority. So sometimes people are left out. It's like that kind of cliquey feeling. So like that's all ego. And that's really inflexible. When we live from our ego, we're limiting the choices that we can make in our life, because when we live from the ego, we are worried about judgment, we're worried about guilt, we're worried about shame, all of the things that keep us down and keep us from moving forward in our lives and trying new things, exploring. Now, exploring is when we get into the heart space. That's when we get to live from the very flexible heart. The heart comes to us with this true, pure intention. It allows us to be compassionate. We get to be allowing. So we allow ourselves to go with the flow. We're not kind of putting any limitations on ourselves. It's got to be one way or the other. Perhaps the energy is going to dictate it to move this way. Well, we're going to go with it. So that's really kind of moving from the flexible heart. The flexible heart is also inclusive. There is nothing outside of it. Everything exists as one. So it's that unity. It's that we're all connected in this life together. And that's pretty beautiful. So when we talk about this idea of being limitless, what does that actually mean? Because some people may think that it means having no limits, but in fact, that's further from the truth. Think about it this way. If you choose to have no limits, have you not just limited yourself to ever having a limit again? You've chosen to live your life in a way that will never be able to impose a limit on you. Limits aren't necessarily bad. Sometimes we want to place limits. Maybe it's a boundary that we don't want someone else to cross. Maybe we need to put up our own personal boundaries. Those are limitations of what we're willing to be accepting of in our life, and how maybe someone treats us. And you know, so that's kind of one idea of setting a limit. So we don't want to necessarily live without limits, because that very idea is limited in itself, to having no limits. So being limitless actually means that you get to choose whether you want to have a limit there or not at any given moment in your life. So for instance, you know, we all get into relationships with someone and it can seem like a really great idea at first, and maybe it's really good for a month, a year, longer, but then you realize it's not serving you so well anymore. Do you stay in that relationship? A lot of people will stay in relationships for the sake that they've invested so much, that they decided that this was the person they wanted to be with, that, you know, they believed in the beginning that this was the one. And now you're realizing that the one isn't so great anymore. So what do you do about that? Do you stay in the relationship because you chose an idea that you believed in the beginning and now no longer serves you? No, absolutely not. As humans, we have the right to change our mind at any given time. As we evolve, as we grow, as we change, so will our choices. It's absolutely natural. In fact, to fight that is not natural. And so we need to be aware of thyself. Know thyself first, so that you can be in tuned with what feels right for you. Strengthening your intuitive muscle, knowing when something doesn't feel right for you, is how you're going to be able to lift a limit or place a limit back in place when need be, when you think it is for your highest good. Living from a very limited place is where we start to get stuck in our lives. when we feel like we aren't progressing, when we feel like things aren't moving, like we're not manifesting what we really want. Maybe it's in a career and you're just bored, or maybe it's in your health. You feel stuck, you're just not losing weight, or you're not gaining the muscle that you wanted to gain. Anything in your life. Being stuck or feeling stuck is due to living in limitation. And so understanding that the flexible heart allows you to live within your limitlessness, that you get to be the limitless being that we're all supposed to be living. Like, that's our divine birthright, is to be limitless as human beings. That allows us to then explore. Now, exploration within the human experience is so important. We need to have the flexibility to change our minds, to explore things that we're not used to, that maybe we've never tried before, that maybe in one time in our life we didn't think it was a good idea, but now as you're older, some times change, you've gained some new wisdom, you've gained some new experiences, you've been exposed to different things. Now you're thinking, I kind of want to try that now. A lot of times we hold ourselves back from trying things because we're worried about the judgment. And judgment comes from ego. And now the ego isn't necessarily a bad thing. I do believe the ego can be a great teacher for us all, but we do not want the ego to be in the driver's seat of our life. We just want the ego to be in the area, sometimes casting a little bit of wisdom on us of what we need to pay attention to. Now, if you are worried about what other people are thinking, perhaps even your own self-judgment, then you're not living your life for yourself. And you are here to live the life that you will reach your greatest potential in. And you can't reach your greatest potential unless you allow yourself to experience the things that your heart is pulling on, that's pulling on the strings of your heart. Whatever things are just like prodding at you, kind of nagging at you, like, try me. Like, those are the things that we really need to pay attention to. And if we're too worried about the judgment of what maybe other people will think or how we'll feel about ourselves, maybe placing some shame, placing some guilt, these things can really weigh us down and prevent us from living into our truest potential. And we did not come to this earth and take on this vessel to live small. We are here to live in an expanded state of being, to explore our limitlessness, to see all of the potential, to see all the different experiences that it means to be human, and to feel and to love and to have joy. And when we're living in a restricted place, we don't get to feel any of that. So the heart really allows us to expand into our greatest potential. And I kind of wanted to touch on that today because that truly is what I base my whole business on, and a lot of my philosophy and concepts of life are based on that. It's kind of one of my little kind of mantras that I just really kind of remind myself that, if I'm making a choice and it's not really feeling great, I thought it used to be great at one point in my life, but at this current given point in time, I don't feel like it's the right choice anymore. I reserve the right to change my mind. And it's a very empowering place to be. Now, this doesn't mean that you get a free pass at irresponsibility. This is not about being irresponsible. This is about knowing thyself and knowing what really is here to expand you into your greatest potential, how you're going to live your life to the fullest way so that you can live in your joy. And when you live in your joy, other people will want to live in your joy. And they're going to be wondering what it is that you're doing that's so great. And they're going to start asking you questions. They're going to hang around you more. And it's because joy is very infectious. There's a lot of light that's going to come out of you when you are. So understanding this whole concept of being limitless and knowing that it's not about not having limits, but knowing that you reserve the right to change your mind at any given moment, even if it's an hour later that you decide that, you know what, that choice no longer is going to serve me, I'm going to change my mind. You get to change your mind. You reserve that right. And it's your life. So make the choices that you feel are in your best interest to serve you to your highest good. And so that's kind of just what I want to discuss today about the flexible heart, not moving from ego, moving into our limitless self, knowing that when we're making choices later on in life, they may not align with what we previously thought earlier on, and that's okay. And I think it's really important to understand this idea of limitlessness and moving from our heart space, because when we don't, we get stuck. And when we're stuck, we're not growing. And when we're not growing, we have a tendency to get bored and depressed. So I don't want any of you in that state. So that's kind of what we're discussing today. And if you are interested in exploring this idea of limitlessness, and maybe you're feeling a little stuck in your life, maybe you're wondering, like, what is it in my mind that's holding me back? Maybe you can't break that ceiling that you're trying to get through. I do offer some coaching. I do have clients that I coach, and this kind of concept is what I base all my coaching around. So I'm going to leave a link in the description below. So if you are interested in that, you can get more information there. But maybe you're just looking for some guidance, and you just kind of want to listen in on some interesting conversations that have a little bit of humor in them. I have a podcast called Enlighten Up, and me and my two co-hosts, we discuss all things spiritual, and we really do try to keep it informative and at the same time lighthearted while poking fun at ourselves, because the spiritual journey has to have some laughter in it. It cannot be serious all the time, because if we do not have the willingness to laugh at ourselves at any given point, then we are being too rigid, and that's not limitlessness. So you can check that out. That's in iTunes. I'll leave a link for that below as well. And if you need any more information, if you want to read other blogs that I've done, you can go to my website, inflexibleme.com, and you can check out more there. So that's it for today. Everyone, live in your limitlessness. Empower yourself to choose differently when you feel that it's right for you. Don't hold yourself back. Don't live small. Don't live the way the ego wants you to live. That is not the way the human experience was designed to be. Learn from it and grow and expand and reach your fullest potential so that you can inspire others around you to do the same. Thanks for joining me today. I'll catch you guys all next time.